How y'all doing? It's Paul Ryan, your host of the Across the Cowboys podcast. If you're new to the show, thank you for joining us. And to our regular listeners, welcome back. With me, as always, is my co-host, the greatest co-host in the world, Mike the Pig Crum. Mike, how are you?
Doing good, man. Little under the weather, but made it through work today and got the article out. Man, I'm hoping it's good because writing an article kind of NyQuil'd out. You're so worried about I'm worried my editor is going to be like, "What happened, dude? What is going on with this?" So I tried to read it over a couple extra times to make sure. Hopefully, it's not terrible. And then, of course, now we got the pod, but I feel like I'm upticking. Knock on wood. I'm feeling better. Maybe it's just being in the presence of you, but I feel like I'm doing good.
Mike, you mentioned that writing the article. Is it harder to write when you're trying to find something bad to say about a performance like last night, or is it harder to write when you're trying to find something good about a bad performance?
It's harder to write because my articles are keys to victory and 3 stars. That's basically what I do every week. So when you do, because you have to do the 3 stars article, even the Tampa Bay game, week 1, where it's like there was nobody, like nobody did anything good. Like Micah Parsons had 2 sacks. That's about it. So those games are hard. Trying to call out stars in a game you lost, or the Green Bay game where you're like trying to pick stars out and you're like, oh God, you lost. So I have to put stars, so those are tougher. Those are the toughest. And then keys to victory is not easy either because okay, keys to victory in the Houston game. Well, show up and try. What are the keys to victory against Indianapolis? I put stop Jonathan Taylor, basically, pressure Matt Ryan, but against Houston Texans, Jacksonville, you're just more talented. You should just beat them. Just play your game and you win. So you kind of have to look up certain stuff and come up with things. I know Dameon Pierce is a beast, so I'll mention him. And then more of don't make mistakes ourselves, basically.
Right. Don't shoot yourself in the foot. Don't get into penalties and things like that.
Yep, exactly. That was one of the ones this week was penalties.
Another one you mentioned on our Friday episode, Mike, was the turnovers, and we saw what happened there in the fourth quarter. That was insane, dude.
Dude, that was record breaking. It was a record. They broke 2 records with just their fourth quarter performance. They broke 2 records. So that's, man, it's crazy.
At one point I was sitting there, I'm starting to feel bad for the Colts, dude, the way we were embarrassing them.
Yeah, it's funny because in the fourth quarter it was a 2-point game. In the fourth quarter, we were up by 2 at one point. And then it just ended up,
dude.
Yeah, it ended up being a wipeout.
What was it? I had 31 unanswered points.
33. They went 33-0 in the fourth quarter.
My goodness, man.
That's a record.
That's just ridiculous.
Yeah. They also had first team to go 5 straight games, 150 rushing, 150 passing, score 25 points in 5 straight games. First team to ever do that.
It's kind of crazy when you look at Dak's stats. They weren't that impressive. It's almost, I wouldn't say he had a bad game, but from what we're used to, the streak that he's been on, that kind of was a bad game.
Yeah, he had good quarterback rating. He played well overall. They just didn't need him to get a lot of yards. Pollard and Zeke and even Lamb running were doing the job, really.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Well, Mike, I know you said you're feeling a bit under the weather, and I know when we're feeling under the weather, sometimes our goals can kind of go by the wayside. But I'm curious, did Meatless Monday, did you stick to the script, or did your illness prevent you from doing that?
No, I did, and I will be sticking to that script all from here on and through 2023. Today is day 5 of good days. It takes, I believe you told me, 21 days to build a habit.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I got to bring it back, man. I a bunch of stuff in my life, and I got back to working, and too much time has gone by to make the excuses I've made. I got to get this 20 pounds off. It's killing my mentals. And so today I did early in the morning. I just had some cereal. That was the sick one. But again, still meatless and nothing wrong. I use almond milk, nothing too crazy. And then for lunch, I baked a sweet potato. I put it with pesto, and then I spiralized the sweet potato, and I took some of those and fried them to put on top, a little texture. It was really, really good. And then I'm going to do some veggie dumplings, just store-bought ones with a store-bought sauce. Again, that is a product of being sick. I don't want to be in there prepping food and doing that. I don't feel up to it. But I have stuff, set up to where in situations like that I'll be good. So, yeah, I'm excited for the veggie dumplings. They're every time I've gotten dumplings from the store, I've really liked them. So I'm hoping they're good.
The sweet potato and pesto combination, is that something you got out of one of your chef's cookbooks, or is that like a happy accident you tried one day?
Michael Simon. So Michael Simon's Fix It With Food, the 10-day reset I go on. One of them is a sweet potato with pesto. It's a kale pesto. And I make the kale pesto. It's like better than regular basil. It's so good. So I have it constantly, almost always in my fridge. And I had sweet potatoes I need to use. So I popped one in the oven. And then I came up with the idea that I'm going to spiralize some of these sweet potatoes that I need to use them. And I was going to use it for other things, like a dish, like more of a noodle dish, like I do with zoodles. And I was like, you know what? There's no texture really in a sweet potato and the pesto. Why don't I take some of these and just fry them, put them right on top? And it ended up being a really good addition.
That is a unique combination. It doesn't sound good, but I imagine if you've eaten it a few times, that it's pretty good.
It's good. It's that pesto. I love sweet potatoes, so I could have sweet potatoes a million different ways, but it's really that pesto is fantastic. Shouts out to Chef Michael Simon. That's why he gets paid the big bucks.
Mike, I like sweet potatoes, but I like them more when they're candied with marshmallows and things like that. Sometimes you take something basic and you add something to it, and it brings out the best of it. You're looking at this Cowboys. What is it about them that brings out the best in teams, Mike?
Wow, what a transition. That's why he gets the big bucks. That's why he's the host. That was excellent. I think it's just because they know that all the eyes are going to be on them. Like, any game you play against Dallas, you don't want to get embarrassed because the next day, guess what the first topic's going to be? Win or loss. Dallas, First Take. The other show on FS1 that we don't talk about it because they're trash people. One of them is a trash person. Their first thing. What's the other ESPN one with Greeny, who I actually like Greeny. I don't remember the name of their show, but all those shows all start with Dallas. So if you get creamed, there you have to be shown on TV doing that. They know it's one of the highest rated, if not the highest rated game every week. Yeah. So, teams play up to that. They know that, hey, this is the game. You want to, say you're going to be a free agent the next year. Put on tape good film against Dallas because a lot of people are going to see it. And so, I think it's just the fact that so many eyes are going to be on the game. It helps you prepare to play up for it.
Yeah, kind of adding to that, Mike, iron sharpens iron. Dallas usually has a lot of talent. They're not always the best team, but they're usually pretty good, always fighting for a playoff spot, always competitive. So that seems to, help with the competitive advantage, if you will.
Yeah, they've over the last, what has it been, about 20 years almost, they've had mostly Tony Romo and Dak Prescott. When you got two franchise quarterbacks, even if they didn't win anything, they're still two really good quarterbacks that can beat you any week. You're going to come to play. You got to show up.
Man, speaking of Tony Romo, I don't know if I misunderstood or didn't hear correctly, but it sounded like one of the broadcasters said that Prescott passed, was it Randy White and Tony Romo and TDs last night?
No, it was Staubach. He passed Staubach. Yeah, Romo's still about 100 ahead. So
okay, I was going to say
Dak will break that if he's healthy. But he passed. He's like 10 behind Aikman, I think, for second place, and then he's like another 90 to 100 behind Romo, but eventually he'll break them all. He's too good. They're going to keep him around for a long time. If he stays healthy, he'll have all the Cowboys records.
Dude, who would have thought that he'd be breaking Roger Staubach's records, man?
Yeah, I know. Fourth round rookie, gets a chance because none of the quarterbacks ahead of him can stay healthy, including the guy they moved to safety. People forget Jamil Showers was ahead of him in the depth chart, and they moved him to safety that year, and then Kellen Moore got hurt, and then boom, there's Dak Prescott.
Tony Romo, undrafted free agent. Dak Prescott, fourth rounder, back-to-back franchise quarterbacks, man. How lucky can you get?
I know. And if you take those away, we're probably the Jets, prior to this year, or the Lions prior to this year. So we got lucky in the quarterback department as a front office.
Yes, sir. We got to, thankfully, we'll be talking about this guy later on, but thankfully we have this guy on our side.
Yep.
So, one thing about Dak's game, Mike, here lately is the interceptions. And do you feel like those are kind of becoming an issue with this team, or are they currently the biggest issue with this team?
It's funny the way this is a question for me. And after I went the next day, again, I was sick on NyQuil. I feel like it seems harsh to say. Now we got to see the cornerback depth. Obviously, we got to see how the cornerback depth is for the team.
Yeah.
But you could say it is, but the thing is I don't want to be too harsh on it. I don't think it's like a killer thing, but I think right now the team's playing so well that when you go down, it's like, man, they held Jonathan Taylor to under 4 yards a carry, or the run game. And that includes one 19-yard run that was kind of like they had him and he broke out somehow. If you took that away, it would have been even better. The pass game has been fine. They got beat a couple of big plays. Maybe that could be the highest. But the run game is great. The O-line has let up 1 sack in 5 games, I think, now. The wide receiver, CeeDee Lamb, stepping up to be a wide receiver. Like, every question we had going into the season is starting to be answered. And so the thing is like, hey, man, maybe not so many interceptions, Dak. Like, don't hurt our defense. Like, our defense is really killing. So I guess even if the answer could be yes to that, but it's not like significant, which tells you how well Dallas is playing.
Yeah, and they seem to always be in the first half, not the second. They're never like back-breaking, game-ending, game-losing interceptions. So when I saw this question, I was surprised by it. But yeah, I mean, it's more frustrating than it is an issue. I still feel like the biggest issue with this team is the slow starts and the dumb penalties, man. They're always early in the game. We've been doing a lot better about making the adjustments, but I have to say that still the slow starts.
Yeah, slow starts good. Penalties is another good one. I would probably put both of those ahead. I would worry about the cornerback depth too. Those are the 3 that I would be like, yeah, I think those 3 right now would be the ones I'd be more of a higher concern than Dak's interceptions. I agree.
Yeah, yes, sir. So, Mike, I was watching the game with my mom last night, and we were having issues with her internet. She's got like the Spectrum TV app, and that's how she watches TV. So I heard about the the Ashton Dolan TD on, quote unquote on Diggs. And I've seen like the pictures of, Diggs covering Dolan, and then something happened and Diggs is out of the shot and there's Dolan wide open. Can you kind of talk to me about what happened to Diggs on that TD? I guess it was a pump fake by Matt Ryan. What exactly happened there?
Yeah, here's what happened. Trayvon Diggs takes the best wide receiver in the game every week and nobody fucking throws at him. So he got bored. They trotted out some guy dueling on him. And Matt Ryan pumped a slant, and Diggs thought, hey, I got a chance to get a pick, and tried to jump it. And they threw it behind him for a touchdown. It's totally Diggs' fault. They'll get him in the film room and go, come on, man, you can't. And he's going to go, I got bored out there. Like, he didn't even get thrown but once the rest of the game. Like,
yeah,
you get bored. Like, he doesn't get like thrown at anymore. I truly believe he's the best cornerback in the game right now. Like, when it's a legit number one wide receiver, he's following around or covering, he just locks him up completely. The dueling guys, and I didn't even know who that was. We didn't even talk about him the thing before. They trotted him out there, and he just went on a pump fake. He was like, "Hey, I haven't had an interception in a while. I'm gonna go for one." And he got beat. It's his fault. Totally. PFF can talk about him being the worst corner ever, like the worst in history. What an idiot. Philadelphia Eagles fans go, "Oh, this guy's a loser." He just got bored. He doesn't even challenge him. He's like you can't be a Dion anymore because just the way the offenses is, the way things are called. There's never going to be another Deion Sanders, but he's the closest thing. Like, people don't even try him anymore because they're afraid he's going to take the ball away. And so, yeah, they got him.
Good job. And I feel like, people just, while PFF can show you a lot, it's not the end all be all either, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he scares people so much that teams that are down by 30 points don't throw to their best receiver. They showed me a thing that I saw on Twitter that I was marked on about how Justin Jefferson was cooking Trayvon Diggs the whole game. And I go, that tells you how good Trayvon Diggs is, because they don't even look over to him. So it don't matter how bad he's getting cooked. He can get cooked all game. The quarterback don't want to throw at him because he's a monster. So, yeah, you know what? Justin Jefferson beat him every play the whole game, and he was open on every play. And he ended up with 3 catches for 33 yards in a game where Minnesota had to pass the whole game because they were getting blown out. So, good for them. Good for him for cooking Diggs all game. Good for him.
Yeah, 3 receptions for 33 yards, man. That's historic numbers right there, Mike.
All in the first half. In the second half, when Minnesota was only throwing, the game was a blowout, a wipeout. They still didn't challenge Trayvon Diggs. They were still like, "No, we're good, dude. We're good."
Man, what if the Cowboys scored like close to 130 points the last 3 games combined?
Yeah, what they have 40, 54, and what they get 34?
Against the Giants, I thought it was like 28. I thought, or 20. Was it 28 or 25? I think it was 28.
Yeah, that might have been it. NyQuil, dude. Yeah, you
no.
Can't remember.
No, there's no worries. No more math for the rest of the show, Mike. I'm sorry.
Appreciate it.
So, this was a good question by you here, Mike. It's what was more impressive, the fourth quarter, kind of the explosion by the defense and the offense, or was it the fourth quarter more worrisome considering it was only a 2-point game?
Okay, so I threw this question out kind of slickly because I wanted to make a point to people, and it's a point we talked about on the podcast coming up to the game. A lot of analysts will call it playing with your food,
Yes.
Where a team that you should beat by a couple scores, stays in the game close. Here's the thing about that. They played vanilla, which we talked about them doing. They were going to play vanilla. They moved CD around more than he's ever been moved, which was awesome.
Yes.
But, because they didn't want Gilmore to be able to just lock up on him and know where he was all the time. But they played vanilla, especially defensively. And then they kind of figured out what the Colts were doing in the fourth quarter and then ate them alive. And then once it got to the point where the Colts had to play the Dallas game, anybody that has to get into that we got to pass to beat Dallas, then it's over. And you're going to get slaughtered because the Dallas pass rush is after you. And even on plays where they're not near you, you're worried about it. You're always going to be worried about Micah Parsons if he's on the field, regardless of what he's done that game. So, it just so happened to be a game where they and expect it the next 2. Expect the Texans to stay close for a half. Expect the Jaguars to stay close for a half to 3 quarters. And then the team to kind of wake up and do what they got to do. And so, yeah, I'm much more impressed by the record-breaking fourth quarter than by a team staying close because the other team was playing vanilla.
Yeah. It's crazy, Mike. It's just seeing how aggressive our defense is, even up by, a touchdown, by 10 points, by 15 points. seeing still going after the ball, still wanting to create turnovers, still wanting to strip, get a fumble, cause a fumble, and then seeing our coaching staff, kind of we'll discuss this a little bit more in depth later, but staying aggressive and still want to put points on the board. It's a nice mentality to have because it's something we haven't had in a long time.
Yeah, it's impressive, especially considering you dumb stuff down for when people get injured, and it seems like the offense got hit early with injury, and the defense had to carry, and the offense really got dumbed down. And I feel like while it's not as dominant a defense as it was with Cooper Rush because they were healthy, so they were able to do more stuff and dominate more and have more rotation of great players. I feel like they still are pretty damn dominant for a team that has as many young players as Dan Quinn has playing for it.
Yeah. At this point in the season, there's nobody that's 100% healthy, right? No players, no teams. And I don't know. I like the ability. I like that we have the ability to kind of save our best for when it really matters,
Yeah. It's a thing that they do well. So it's impressive. They know how to step it up when necessary. And the only game they really couldn't was Green Bay. Green Bay was like the outlier game, and it was mainly the offense scored nothing in the fourth. Like, I know the defense gave up a 14-point lead, but normally the offense has been able to, after a score, after a big drive by the other team, the offense has been able to go, okay, let's take it back, do a 7-play, 70-yard drive, put points on the board. They just couldn't do that in Green Bay, and the defense eventually wore down, and they lost the game. Minus that game, they've been like that. Even with Cooper Rush, the team has stepped up when it was necessary.
Yeah, we kind of saw this trend start with the Lions. We saw it with the Bears. Of course, you mentioned the Packers game, but we've seen it for this little streak that we've been going there since Dak's been back.
The Bengals.
Yeah,
where I believe the Bengals came back and tied it, and then Cooper Rush had to go win it and was able to. They've had that knack. You're absolutely right. Minus one aberration game of Green Bay, they've had that knack that when they've needed to, they've done what they got to do.
Yeah, it's interesting when you think about it. This team has won in a variety of ways this season, and the one blemish, it's like it sucks that it goes against Dak, but hopefully that'll be something he can learn from.
Yeah. Aaron Rodgers, the boogeyman, got him.
Seriously, dude. I really do think that's Dak's like biggest rival, Rodgers and the Packers.
I agree. That's Dak's got him once or twice, I think, maybe, but yeah, that's the guy. That's the guy that they need to get by.
Yes, sir. So, it wasn't really all bad for Indy, especially I was impressed by the way they were able to get some pressure on Dak and, how they were able to beat our offensive line. Can you talk to us a little bit about what Indy's defensive line was doing that was causing our O-line so many problems?
I didn't really see it much. I know Steele had some issues, but I went back, I looked through Biotish at maybe his best game as a pro. He had a great game. I love seeing the rotation. Tyler Smith going back into left guard. They ran the ball for 200 yards. They only gave up one sack. Now that one sack was the first one in like 4 games. The offensive line's really they've allowed pressure, but Dak hasn't been sacked by him. So I don't know. I think it was more they were doing some really weird stuff in coverage. I saw one time where they had like 2 linebackers out on Lamb, like in the slot, which was weird. And they would they had some weird, like they would do unique stuff on third down to try to confuse Dak. And I think that maybe it made it seem like the O-line was having trouble because Dak had to take an extra second to process and go through. And he was checking down to running backs a lot, which was part of the game plan because they play the shell, 4-man rush, occasionally a 5th rusher, shell behind it. So he was tossing it to the running backs, letting the running back make a play. But I think it was more coverage than the D line. I think when they had trouble, it was because Dak got fooled by a couple of weird different setups from the Colts defense.
Yeah, prior to the adjustment with Peters and Tyler Smith, it kind of seemed like Indy was getting a lot of pressure on Dak. Our run game was not having a lot of success on the left side, and then it even looked like after they made the adjustment, they kind of started getting some pressure on the right side, which is something we haven't seen a lot this year either. But I did notice it. I mean, of course, it wasn't that effective, but it was kind of surprising to see.
Martin did get beat once. Martin got beat right up the middle, got pushed right back into Dak's pocket, which talk about rare to see. He had a holding penalty this season, and he got beat twice this season. So he's falling off, guys. We better get a new right guard. He's only got 4 or 5 elite all-pro years left.
Maybe we'll trade him for a 5th-round pick this year, Mike.
Oh, God, that hurts. Come on, man. We won 54-19, man. You got to bring up that hurts, man. It's rough.
Somebody you mentioned on Friday, Mike, was Alec Pierce. And we talked about, I thought maybe Paris Campbell might be an issue for Anthony Brown, but it was Alec Pierce who had the big play on Brown yet again. We know he's been giving up a lot of those this year. Do you feel like Anthony Brown has played his way out of Dallas, or could we possibly get him at a discount next year?
With an Achilles injury, the question I'd have to know is when will he be ready? So I think what's going to happen is one of Lewis or Brown will be back next year. Mm-hmm. Lewis is under contract, but it's a cuttable contract. It's not going to cost you anything to get rid of him. Anthony Brown's a free agent that nobody's going to want to hire off of this year and a Achilles injury. So I think they'll look at both coming off their injuries this offseason, see how both of them look, which one will take a 1-year deal for cheaper. But if you look at the DBs, like Kelvin Joseph's got 2 more years. They're not going to get rid of him. They've shown enough, and he's enough of a special teams player that you don't just cut him. It obviously is a beast. Deron Bland looks like a monster. Mukwamu is versatile enough to be a safety or a corner, although they use him in certain situations at safety. I think in a pinch, he could move to corner if necessary. So they just brought in another guy who was highly touted to the practice squad, who had some issues. I think it was injury wise, but I'm blanking on the name. But from
USC, right?
Yeah, I think that was it. Yeah.
And, I remember he hasn't played or anything, but I know he's been on a practice squad all year, right?
Yes. And then I honestly assume that 2 picks in the first 4 rounds are probably going to be corners next year. So it wouldn't shock me if both of them were gone, but I would assume one comes back on a cheap vet deal that they could cut if things aren't, what they hope. They could just let it go.
Dane Brugler, he was already starting to do some mock drafts, and he had the Cowboys taking a cornerback. I forget his name and what college he goes to, but taking a cornerback at 24.
I refuse. First of all, 24. Nope.
Yeah.
We're picking 32 is the only draft pick I will accept. And
yes, sir.
While I am just beginning to look at tape, I refuse to do any Cowboys mock BS, none of that. Not until we're eliminated. I won't do it. Don't tag me on it and on Twitter. I will just yell at you and tell you I hate you.
Really? So you're not even just for fun, just to get an idea of where guys are going or anything? You're not even looking at mock drafts right now?
Nope. I literally told 2 people I hate you for putting in yeah. They tagged me in it and said, "What do you think about this guy going here?" And I replied, "I hate you." That is what I replied.
All right, Mike. You mentioned the cornerback rooms. It's getting pretty thin there. How big of a loss is Anthony Brown?
I want to say a big loss. He's a pretty solid cornerback too. Like he's been getting beat a couple times, but he's not torched all the time. Like he gives up a couple big plays. Yeah. The thing about it though is man, Quinn's been so like when Jordan Lewis got down, we didn't even have a slot corner to replace him. I honestly thought Anthony Brown would have to move to slot because they brought in a rookie from Fresno State, my hometown. I love the kid. I when we drafted him, I knew he'd be a player because he was a special teams captain. So I knew he was going to make the team. I had no worries about that. I knew he'd be a special teams baller. But my goodness, has he played great. Mukwamwu is playing good in his time. Bell, in the time that he's got, has played well. Nobody knew who Jerron Kearse was. Sorry, he was a special teams guy. He just was. I hate to say it because he's friggin' great now. But he became a beast. Malik Hooker, off an injury, didn't know what he was going to be. Played great. Diggs has turned into an all-pro, literally. Anthony Brown, who everybody thought we were going to cut, ended up being a damn good number 2, especially last year. So now with Dan Quinn, I'm going to say I think it should be a big loss, but will it be? No. I don't know. Dan Quinn's just that good of a DC.
I am interested to see Joseph, his second year in the system, second year in the league, with like a full week of starter reps in practice, what he could do against, a team like the Texans, maybe like a confidence builder,
I want him to do good so bad. Like I put a lot out for him. He was my 24th highest player in that draft. I loved the draft pick. I thought him and Trayvon Diggs were just going to annihilate, and it just hasn't worked out for him. He's a little too grabby. You could tell his mindset isn't right. And I believe that maybe this is the thing. Like, okay, here you go, man. You're starting. You're starting on one of the top defenses in the league. Show us what we saw in college. Because we saw it. All the scouts from teams, they all knew he was a first, second round talent, a top 50 player. He just had off the field issues, but everybody knew he was at worst a top 50 prospect. So now time to put it together. It's time. Right now is the time.
And it's interesting, Mike, because you mentioned the off the field stuff. He's kind of got that mentality that we've been looking for. And you look at our defense, how aggressive we are and how everybody around him has kind of adopted that mentality. And he's the one who's having trouble.
Yeah. And he will, no matter what, he will improve the run defense. Because he ain't Anthony Brown or Diggs. That's why he plays special teams. He will get in there and tackle. Just, you get against crews that call a lot of penalties, which this crew was. So kudos to Dallas only having 3 penalties because that was a crew that normally throws a lot of flags. But, if you get a crew that throws a lot of flags, Kelvin Joseph will get penalized. He's a holding. He holds.
I was very happy with the officiating last night, not to get us off topic.
Yeah, I agree. It was good.
Yeah, we've talked a little bit about Bland tonight, Mike, and maybe this is some recency bias, but is Bland the best playmaker after Micah for our defense?
No, I mean Trayvon Diggs is like Mr. Playmaker. Tank, obviously, and then little underrated Dorrance Armstrong.
Yeah, that's my
playmaker.
guy.
Even this last, he got his hand on a field goal. It still made it like if you had special teams, he's blocked a field goal, he's blocked a punt, strip sack. He recovers fumbles. Like he low key is a big time playmaker. So I would put all of those ahead of Bland. Tank's play, the one on the 1 yard line where he splits 2 blocks and then knocks the fumble and we pick it up against the Lions. It was. And you can't, man. And then Diggs might be our best playmaker. Just nobody allows him to make a play anymore. They don't even try him. So
right. He just makes people disappear. He's a magician.
Yes, exactly. So I would say Bland would be in the rankings after those guys.
So for me, it was Dorrance Armstrong only because, of course, we've seen what Diggs can do, but now that he is just a lockdown corner, he doesn't have the chance to make plays because nobody's throwing it at him. So.
Yeah, I agree, man. It would clearly be Diggs would be number 1, even above Micah, if teams would ever throw at him. They know, so they don't throw at him.
Did speaking of Micah though, did he get a sack last night? I remember him. I know he was in the backfield a lot, but I don't remember seeing him get one.
Did not get a sack.
I didn't think so. So
speaking
of play, what's that?
Expect 2 against Houston.
My goodness, man. Just such a beast. Speaking of playmakers, Mike, it's we saw both these guys making plays last night. CeeDee Lamb or Tony Pollard. For offense, who's our best playmaker of those two?
I said the way Lamb is stepping up, man.
Dude.
I so badly want to say Lamb. The guy had 7 touches last game. 6 of them went for first down. And the one that didn't was the 1 foot away jet sweep that he got the first down on a jet sweep the next play. Like, man, I want him. He is stepping into that role. Like he was going into the game. He was top 3 in big plays at wide receiver. He was 3rd. He was 9th in yards. This was going into the game, so I haven't factored in all of that yet. But he was top 3 in big plays, top 10 in yards. He was like top 15 in touchdowns. Like he's there because you got to remember he had 5 games with Cooper Rush.
Yeah.
So he's right there. The thing is, man, Tony Pollard is like 7 yards a carry, dude. Like he gets 2-3 big play runs a game. Like so I want to say that Lamb is developing into that guy, and maybe when you see his targets go above the touches for Pollard, maybe that makes him closer. But right now, I got to give TP that nod.
Yeah, because it's so incredible what Pollard can do on 5 touches, 10 touches, 12 touches. Whereas, Lamb has to get the targets. And of course, every wide receiver to be a playmaker, you have to get targets. But Pollard is literally a threat. I mean, he can take one to the house at any given moment. I mean, he could probably have 1 touch, and I wouldn't be surprised if his 1 touch was like a 70-yard touchdown reception. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he is the lightning bolt. It's crazy because like I really want to say like Lamb has made that a question the last few weeks how he's played, but it's Pollard, dude, and he has to do it from a harder spot. Like breaking plays like that as a running back is crazy. He's crazy, dude.
I don't know if it was the safety of the cornerback, but that hit that Lamb laid on that guy was, my God, dude. And then just stood up, and that guy was like, he fell over, rightfully so. But man, the way Lamb just handled that was impressive.
He took 2 3rd and 10 3-yard passes and made a touchdown out of one and an 18-yard first and goal out of the next one on 3-yard slants. That is the CeeDee Lamb I thought we were getting from Oklahoma coming out. Yak yards were his thing. And if they're finding a way to finally get him in those positions, I'm so excited.
Well, another exciting thing last night was that back shoulder fade throw from Dak to Gallup. I mean, if he can add that to the arsenal, and Gallup can also start coming along too, man. Ooh.
Yeah, and we're just talking about who we have. There's that.
Yeah, there's another guy out there lurking, sir. Yeah. When I saw the starting lineup last night, Mike, there was a couple of names that surprised me, but one being Tony Pollard. Were you surprised to see that?
I was, and I put this question down. Then I found out it was a disciplinary issue. So Steve had a phone going off during meetings. It happened more than once. Apparently, this is what I've heard. Yeah, it happened more than once, and so they he still got more touches than Pollard. But I was like, oh shoot, we didn't know. So that's one thing. Mike McCarthy's done a good job of buttoning shit up. So nobody knew till the next day, till that night when Jerry Jones said that. So everybody kind of was like, oh shit, all right, well, they made the change. Pollard's the starter, and Jerry was like, no, disciplinary issues. So yeah, he wasn't really the starter, quote unquote. It was just a disciplinary issue for Zeke.
I swear Jerry loves Zeke probably as much as he loves Steven, dude. I swear.
Yeah, Jerry is fond of Zeke, Dorrance Armstrong, and Stephen Jones, and those are his 3 top.
Yes, sir. I wasn't as surprised to see Pollard starting, even with this information you gave me, Mike, as I was to see Noah Brown starting. Was there any disciplinary issues there? What do you think that was about?
No, he's the third wide. It's Lamb, Gallup, and then Noah Brown. Noah Brown was just injured a few weeks, and he was kind of working his way back in. So when they go 3 wide, Noah Brown's that guy.
I don't know why. I must have missed it, man, but I could have swore I'm like, okay, why is Brown starting but not Gallup? Because when you sent this question, I'm like, okay, I thought Pollard and Zeke started last night, but it was CeeDee Lamb and Noah Brown who were the starting receivers, which I was like,
it's very
strange.
It's very possible they wanted the Colts to think they were coming out running, and Noah Brown's going to be the blocking guy, So that's possible. But
package thing.
Yeah, maybe Gallup had a disciplinary issue too. Made up for it with those 2 touchdowns, though.
Yes, sir. Mike, I see you glancing over at the TV. Can you give us a Monday Night Football score update, sir?
Saints killed them. Saints just have Brady's number, man. 16-3.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, in Tampa. They whip their ass. They just know how to stop them. They still scare me, though. We don't match up with them like the Saints do.
It's gross to think that somebody from the NFC South is going to have a home playoff game.
Yeah, and likely either face Dallas or the Eagles.
That's crazy, dude.
It's nuts. The 2 best teams in the NFC probably got to match up with Brady and a not very good team, but because it's Brady, you just never know, man. It's scary.
I wonder, I guess let's see. I know this wouldn't be possible, I guess, but I wouldn't mind seeing a Commanders versus Brady rematch, with Heineke and Brady, what probably is his last season.
Yeah, Commanders would either have to go on. Yeah, Commanders would have to go on a run because they're going to be the worst division winners, so they're going to face the best wild card team.
Yeah.
So Commanders would have to take our spot in the top. And I just don't see that happening.
No, sir. No, sir. Speaking of the best, Mike, looking at this rookie draft class with the production we've seen from him this year, is this the best rookie draft class Will McClay, has had as far as rookies go?
I think it has to be because Lamb and Diggs were pretty good, but that was basically all they got from their rookies in that class. And Diggs wasn't great. Like, he was getting beat a lot because they just had to throw him out there to the wolves, basically. And then 2021, Parsons was a monster. I don't know if you got much out of anybody else behind that, but Osa was pretty good for a few games before he hit a rookie wall. But man, this lineup of Smith coming out and having to play left tackle, the rotational work of Sam Williams and Ferguson at tight end, Sam Williams, the defensive end. And then you had Bland has been thrown in as the starting nickel corner since Jordan Lewis has been out. And now you have Clark getting starting snaps because of the Anthony Barr hamstring injury. I mean, what more do you want? Your first round pick started every game and has played his ass off. Your second round pick is making an impact as a rotational defensive end. Your third round pick did not, is not
panned out.
Every pick's going to hit. Your fourth round pick is making big plays as a tight end, getting plenty of snaps in there. And then your 2 fifth-round picks are starting on your defense, on a top 5 defense in the league. So, yeah, I'd say this is about as good as you could ask for.
Seriously. If Tolbert was just able to give us anything, or was just giving us anything, like if he had like 20 receptions right now, I'd be like, maybe that's a good season for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if Tolbert could have taken Noah Brown, could have been like Noah Brown, we'd be like, this is one of the greatest draft class ever.
Especially when you think about, having to play left tackle, like you said, and then being a key piece on the defensive line, limited stops, you see the production we get from Sam Williams. And then you mentioned Bland. We're seeing what Damone Clark is going to be a difference maker, for sure next year, but he's had an impact this year. Ferguson has made Dalton Schultz replaceable. So, when knowing that these guys had to come in, we had to get some production from this rookie class, not expecting much from this team at all heading into the season. Yeah, I have to agree with you, Mike. This is, as far as productive rookies goes, McClay's best draft class.
Hey, I'm going to update you right now because I put dirt on Brady's grave a little earlier than I should have. There was a pass interference penalty that got them down to the 1 yard line. They just scored. So now it's going to be 10-16 with 3 minutes left. So if the Saints get stopped and Tampa Bay use their 3 timeouts, you're giving Brady a chance to score a touchdown to win the game. And so it's never over when you got Tommy Boy.
Who do you know who scored that touchdown, Mike?
It was I'm looking at it right now. Oh God, was that Brate? 88. Is that Cameron Brate or is he 84?
Cameron Brate. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know what number he wears.
It's nobody that you have on your fantasy team, I can tell you that.
Probably not, sir. Oh, Mr. Cade Otton. I do have him. I actually had to pick him up on one of my teams that I'm actually about. I think after this week I'm going to be 0-13, but hey, I'll take those points.
Yeah, he just scored you some points. There's a big 6.
Yes, sir. And, Cade Otton, he was part of this 2022 draft class. When you look at the last 3 draft classes, 2020, 2021, 2022, which draft class is better in your opinion, Mike?
You got to go 2020, dude. You have CeeDee Lamb as a number 1 wide receiver. You got an all-pro cornerback in the 2nd round, which is just probably the best corner in football right now.
Yeah.
2nd round. And then Biadasz is a starting center. He started the last 2 years for you. Last year, he wasn't very good. This year, he's been good. So like the talk of needing to replace center is out now, in my opinion. He's there this year and next year minimum. So yeah, I mean, you get a top 10 player at his position, a all pro, and then a starter quality player, all from one draft. That's elite of elite drafting.
It really is, man. Yeah, I have to agree. 2020 is good. I was kind of looking it over just the last 5 draft class. 2016 we have Dak, Zeke, and Anthony Brown. 2017, not that great with Taco, Cheeto, Jordan Lewis, Noah Brown, but that's no disrespect to Cheeto, Jordan Lewis, or Noah Brown or Taco, but those guys are Pro Bowlers or anything, but they're great players to have on your team, kind of like not core players, but role players. 2018, you have Leighton Vander Esch, Connor Williams, Michael Gallup, Dorrance Armstrong, and Dalton Schultz. I feel like that's an underrated draft class right there.
That's a nice draft class. It's if Leighton Vander Esch stays healthy and plays like he has the last 2 years and how he did as a rookie all 5 years, then you're talking about that being a better draft class. It's because Leighton kind of fell off after his injuries, and that's your top pick. Same with the year before. If Taco Charlton is TJ Watt, you're having a different discussion because Cheeto's solid, Jordan Lewis solid. You go through a little bit more, but your top pick didn't make the cut, so that's what kills you.
I wouldn't label Leighton Vander Esch a bust, but what would you say is a fair label for that pick, Mike?
A poor pick.
Poor, really? Wow.
Dalton. Looks like that Brady's going to get this ball back.
As long as Julio Jones doesn't touch the ball, I'll be fine. Fantasy implications, my friend, obviously.
Need them. Has to be.
Yes, sir. All right, Mike, your views from the sidelines this week. You touched on it a little bit earlier, but what changes has Kellen Moore made to better utilize the receivers this season?
Well, the one thing that I wanted to point out, that CeeDee Lamb got moved in motion this game more than any other game in his career. And I don't know if he just earned the trust of the front office to be able to do his stuff, But last year it felt like we started off with the motion and stuff, and then the Joneses came out and said we don't really like the trick plays, and he kind of just stopped using motion and jet sweeps and stuff like that. And he's using that. Wow. Oh, he dropped it. I was about to update with a first down for New Orleans, but he dropped the ball. So, jet sweeps are back in. Motion is back in. Like things that help the quarterback figure out a defense and help dictate coverages and help set up, different type of plays later on, like fake jet sweeps or stuff you have to look for on defense. He's being allowed to use that more, and it's showing since Dak came back, number 1 offense in the league. So, yeah, Kellen Moore's figuring shit out. He's doing a good job. The next step is to get Turpin involved. Turpin needs to get involved now.
Mike, do you remember what your word was to describe what this year was going to be like during the offseason?
I don't. Do you?
Developmental.
Developmental. Well, they're developing really well, really fast.
Dude, Kellen Moore, CeeDee Lamb, Tyler Smith. Crazy, dude.
Clark, Bland, Dorrance Armstrong, Micah Parsons. I mean, they're legitimate. And now let's add to it. Kelvin Joseph, here you come. Israel Mukuamu, here you come. Like, they're going to need you now.
Mm-hmm.
So, Curse has been on and off with injury. He's likely to maybe miss a game or two. That position. Malik Hooker, has he ever gone through a full season? Knock on wood. Like, so, yeah, developmental. Man, I'm a genius.
I didn't really know what to expect from Kelvin Joseph this year when he considered the offseason stuff that he had to go through. And then there was discussion that he might even get cut. Of course, we don't know how much truth there was to that. But just the fact that he's playing special teams and doing well there, I mean, I think that's a successful season for him.
Yeah. He's definitely okay. So doing enough on the practice field to have Dallas believe in him enough to get the start on the outside with Brown out now to be the guy that they're going to make the special teams and become probably the third best special teams guy on the team behind Dorrance Armstrong and CJ Goodwin. It's impressive, man. Like it's not what you want out of your second round pick, but if you switched Bland, if you made Bland a second round pick and Joseph a fifth round pick, you wouldn't have an issue with either one of them, what they're doing right now.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. All right, Mike, here we are with one word. And this week we're going to use one word to describe Dallas having their starters in the game up 30 with 4 minutes to play was blank.
Reckless. Just there was no point. So,
yeah.
Get them out of there. They don't need the stats. They're the number one offense. They have the number one pass rush. Get them out.
For me, Mike, it was careless. I don't know if you that's what is that word? Simpatico? I don't know. We've been on a little bit of a wavelength.
We have
the last couple of weeks.
We have been. That's careless, reckless. Yep. I mean, but it's the only word. There's no reason to have them out there.
Yeah, no, not at all. And then we saw Anthony Brand go down, and they still had guys out there. And then Tyler Smith was playing with the second unit, where I was like, "What is going on?"
Yeah, I have no idea. Killing me.
I don't know if it was like, are we trying to flex? Is McCarthy trying to make a statement against the Colts, like kind of put in the league on notice of this is who we are and what we're going to do? But it was strange.
Yeah, and unnecessary would have been another word.
Oh my God, yeah, perfect word actually. All right, Mike, here we are with top 5. I'm not sure what inspired this category, but I got the inspiration last night when I was watching the game. But top 5, you hate this?
I hate this category because I don't believe in it. I don't really. I don't know. I just don't. Well, go into the category and then I'll.
So yeah, we know that Hollywood, man, all they do is they take old stories, repackage them, put fresher faces in. It kind of gets old. But at the same time, I feel like there's some stories out there that I wouldn't mind being seen remade. If I never see any of these movies that are on my list get remade, I won't be upset. But I thought it'd be interesting to see what top 5 movies you'd like to see remade, Mike. Especially your movies, because you're like a movie junkie. So your list is really interesting to me. So start us off with number 5.
You're gonna hate my list because I almost did all what movies would I like to do live action remakes? Because I like those.
Okay.
I thought Aladdin was cool. I like Beauty and the Beast. I was like, well, I like those, but to be honest with you, I don't like. If people think my lists are gonna have Star Wars or Back to the Future, those are
my
perfect.
Goodness.
I don't want any of that. Like if on there, that's not happening. Like if movie's perfect, I'll just show people the old one. That's how I am, So I kind of hated this, but I was like, okay, let me go through. It took me a long time on this list. And I was like, okay, I figured out 5. The fifth one is so this is an old school Disney movie that almost got a PG-13 rating back when Tim Burton did it. It's funny because he was doing this movie, and I believe it was like around the time that Nightmare Before Christmas was being done. And he didn't really direct Nightmare Before Christmas. He just they put his name behind it, And so he's not even the director of Nightmare Before Christmas. He was doing this one, but I'd like to see Black Cauldron live action remake.
Okay.
What's that?
I've never heard of that movie. What is that?
It's a Disney movie, but it's like a really their first really dark movie. Tim Burton did it, and it's back in the late 80s, I believe it was. And yeah, I just like to see it redone because I want to see if they do it. Would they do one that's PG-13? Because it almost got a PG-13 rating. Like, it's dark for Disney. Like, you're talking Snow White and Sleeping Beauty. Sleeping Beauty, like the Spendalier. Like, imagine a part where where she pricks her finger on the thing and it's like real dark. And imagine that for a whole movie. So I would love them to live action remake that. If you haven't seen Black Cauldron, now it's an old ass movie. It's an old animated movie. So remember, it's not going to live up to 2020s. But if you watch it, it's pretty crazy, man. It was good for back then, especially.
Yes, sir. Yeah, Mike, I had a hard time because one, there's movies that I don't want to see remade. And there's actually a movie on here that I don't necessarily want to get remade, but I think it'd be fun if it was, just to see who would play the characters and everything. But finding movies that haven't already been remade, so it was kind of difficult for me. But number 5, this is kind of a classic movie. I don't know if you'd consider it a cult classic, but I just remember watching it a lot growing up as a kid. Tremors.
Okay, all right.
With Kevin Bacon, and I don't remember who else, but I just remember it being a fun movie, a cool movie, kind of scary, but not serious or anything. I just feel like you could do something with that if you wanted to make it dark, or if you just kind of wanted to go with the same vibe that it had, but maybe make the Tremors a little bit scarier, or
Do you know how
that's kind of a fun movie?
Do you know how many Tremors sequels there were?
I think there's 4 or 5.
Yeah, 4 or 5. Yeah, that's correct. So it's 1st and goal, Bucks. I just looked right now.
Are you kidding?
Down. They're about the 4-yard line. 17 seconds left.
Wow.
It went from Saints are killing them, I said literally on the podcast about 5 minutes ago, to they're going in to score with 19 seconds left. It's crazy.
Man, this is what fantasy nightmares are made of, Mike. Because Julio Jones has 5.8 points. I'm currently up 139 to 1. I have 139.10. My opponent has 137.62.
Hold on, a flag. Hold on. Holding offense. Wow. It was a touchdown pass. Brady had a touchdown pass to Godwin, but a hold on Smith. Lovely see. I know we're at an hour mark and we want to get out of here, but let me. Oh, he definitely.
No, you're fine. You're fine. You're fine.
That was a hold. Yeah.
All right, Mike. Let's keep us updated, sir, because this is fantasy implications. But I'm going to go with number 4 on my list. I don't know how you're going to feel about this. And again, if it didn't get remade, I would be totally fine. This is something I want to watch with my son. But again, I think it could be kind of fun if it were to be made. It's an excellent story. It's a classic movie. E.T.
I'm okay with that one. Okay. E.T. could be remade. I'm all right with that. I won't yell at you for that one. It's a classic, but it can be remade because a lot of it is, I would like to see how they did it with the new stuff. I don't want them to do CG, do the puppets, but with the new stuff.
Please. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, Mike, I know you're watching the game, but what's number 4 on your list?
Number 4 on my list is a movie probably nobody that's listening to us has ever heard of. It's called Short Circuit. Have you heard of that movie?
Heard of? I'm pretty sure I watched that. That's what the robot that him and the little boy, huh?
Number 5, Johnny 5.
Johnny 5.
Steve Gutenberg creates these 5 robots one of them gets hit by electricity, becomes alive.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically like they're trying to chase him down and everything. And it's like, a fight that this robot is alive and not like, just a robot. It's a good movie. I don't know if it needs to be remade or not, but I was looking through and I was like, with the new stuff that they could do with robots and everything like that, you could do it. And it's like he's learning stuff in the new age, and you could do a lot about that in a remake that would be totally different because of how much stuff has changed since that movie was made in the friggin' 80s.
Hold on, I'm trying to see because I'm looking here at the movie poster and everything. This isn't the one with the little boy and everything, is it right?
No, with Short Circuit has Ali Sheedy.
Yeah, okay. I was thinking of another movie. Do you ever watch that show? It's on Netflix, Mystery Science Theater, where they like make fun of movies with the commentary and everything. They watch B-list movies.
Brady just threw a touchdown pass.
Please don't say the name.
It was to a running back. You're good.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm fine then. The show's not ruined, Mike.
It's crazy that 10 minutes, literally 10 minutes ago on the show, I was like, they're getting killed. And then they just went back to back, touchdown, game over. They won.
Yeah, that's
why
how fast it goes, dude.
Tampa. That's why. When people ask me, well, they're not shit. They're shitty. They only scored 17. I don't want the game. They were getting killed. And what happened? Brady got the ball, one penalty, score, get the ball back, drive down, touchdown. Like
he found a way, man.
Yeah, I do not want to see Tampa Bay. I hate it so much.
That's fair. All right, Mike. No more Monday Night Football talk. Talk to us about number 4 on your list. Oh no, you said Short Circuit. Excuse me, number 3 on your list.
Okay, number 3 is going to be another movie that nobody watched because it didn't make any money, but I loved it. I read the whole book series. The movie's called Odd Thomas. The books are by Dean Koontz. It's a series about a kid who could see ghosts, and so he helps fight crime. And man, the movie they made was so good. Like they nailed the book perfectly. It's one movie. I gave it a 9 out of 10. But the star of the movie, the guy who played Odd Thomas, Anton Yelchin, died in a tragic accident. And so they never got to do any more of them. There's like 7 books, I think, 7 to 10 books. I've read every one. And man, I love that movie so much. I was so worried when I heard that a movie was being made. And then I watched it. And they just nailed it. I mean, 100% nailed the book. It was beautiful. And then the poor kid died. And you know what? He became, after that movie, he kind of became a star and was in a bunch of stuff. So maybe he wouldn't have wanted to do any more of them. But the content is really good. And I felt like if they get the right people behind them, they could do 3, 4, 5 movies out of it. And so I'd like to see them redo the Odd Thomas.
I'm looking here at the posters. Is William Dafoe in them?
Yes, he's the sheriff.
Wow.
Watch it.
Okay.
Hey, I can't, especially if you've never read the book, so you don't know what's going to happen. I can't recommend a movie higher. And they don't have him in it, but in the books he talks to like different ghosts, like Elvis's ghost follows him around, and it's crazy, man. But yeah, I highly recommend you watch that movie. Read the books. Hell, if you have time, read the books. The books are even better. But that movie is watching.
I'll remember that. All right, Mike, number 3 on my list. This is my all-time favorite Disney movie. I'm talking like Disney with the art, like the hand-drawn art and everything way back in the day. Probably a movie in the Disney vault. Sword in the Stone. And I think it'd be pretty cool if they did like live action where they could make it even have, not necessarily make the entire movie dark, because I don't know. I mean, I guess I could see with the story it being kind of dark, but
that'd be Black Cauldron.
Black Cauldron?
A dark version of Sword in the Stone. You could, Black.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Who would you?
A fan of
Who
Sword in
would
the
you
Stone?
have Merlin?
Who would play Merlin?
Yeah, live action. Who would be Merlin?
Why not Christopher Lloyd?
Christopher Lloyd, Back to the Future Christopher Lloyd?
Yeah.
I love it. I'm up
That'd
for
be pretty good, right?
Yeah, I'm up for it.
What are your thoughts on the movie Sword in the Stone and just in general, though?
Good movie. It's not one of my top Disney movies, but I love it. It's a good Disney movie, but it's not in my top tops.
Well, I watched the mess out of that thing on VHS, dude.
Yeah, dude, we you ate some VHS. Well, not everybody, because some people aren't old enough to even know what VHS is. But if you are, there's some VHS movies you just ate the tape. You watched it so much.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, Mike, number 2 on my list. I don't know how you're going to feel about this one. This is the classic. Again, another movie I loved growing up. This would definitely be a little bit darker. My first ever vampire movie that I ever saw, The Lost Boys.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with The Lost Boys being remade. It's
not
been
a fan of the original.
No, I love the original, which is why I hesitated for a little bit. Like, I don't know if I want that, but it's not classic enough for me, or it's not adored enough by me to where I'm like, no, I'll just watch the original. I don't mind it because I'd like to see the cast they come up with.
Exactly. I think that'd be really interesting.
Yeah, that is a big part of it. So yeah, I wouldn't mind that.
I'm Mike, number 2 on your list.
I'm on 2. Disney's Robin Hood. This is probably my favorite. Aladdin's my favorite Disney movie, but this one's like right there. They're both 10 out of 10 for me. I think it's the most underrated Disney movie of all time. And I don't know how they do live action because it's made with animals and I'd want it to be the animals. Mm-hmm. But I'm sure they could do something like Avatar where it's like, or Jungle Book,
Yeah.
I would love to see that remade into a live action. The thing is, the Robin Hood story has been told so many times, so many ways. So I'd want them to do the Disney version, like not changes, none of that. The Prince John, the snake, the archery tournament, like don't make a whole new movie. Do that movie just live action, and I would be very, very happy.
Yeah, Robin Hood, that's not one that I've watched too many times, but I look forward to going through the Disney catalog with my son for sure.
Bro, the Fox made Marion. Hot, dude. I don't care. Hot. You better find a hot ass girl to play. You don't realize it till later on. You're like, ugh, I had the hots for an animal. Like, that's not good. But when you're younger, you're like, hot Fox. She was a fox. Sir.
All right, Mike, number 1 on your list.
Number 1 on my list is the one movie that I'm like, I heard about the remake and who wanted to be a part of it. And I was like, I'm in. And it is one that I never thought I'd want remade, but the movie's Clue.
Oh, I almost had that on my list, dude. Almost.
So Jason Bateman and Ryan Reynolds are in talks. They both want to do it. Ryan Reynolds went to Jason Bateman about it, and they're talking about doing the remake. Ryan Reynolds has to get through, he got through the Scrooge remake, and now he has to get through the Deadpool movie. But that apparently is going to be one of his next ones after that. And if you haven't seen Clue, what is wrong with it? All-time great comedy movie and a mystery. It's based off the board game, with the different observatory, kitchen, dining room, and the different weapons. And it's a whodunit. And it has multiple endings, which is really cool. And they have to have that. They've got to do the 3 endings again. Here's what could have happened. Here's what might have happened. Here's what did happen. Got to do that again. I'm assuming Jason Bateman's got to be Tim Curry's character.
No, I was going to say you have to have Tim Curry in it, dude. Come on.
Well, see, Tim Curry could be in it, but I'm talking about being like the main characters. Bateman's got to play the Tim Curry character. He's got to. Like, the way I do it is I would have Tim Curry be Mr. Body. You know, the one who dies early on. So you don't, or somebody like Colonel Mustard, or somebody a little not as like the main. Like, the main's going to be Ryan Reynolds and Jason Bateman. So you can't have Curry come back and be the main character. But if he could be like you know what would be great? If he was the cop or the taxi cab driver. So you don't expect him to be in it. And then later in the movie, you're like, oh shit, they brought in Tim Curry. That's awesome. You know, I think him being the cop would be great. I think that would be really cool. You know, you can give him some funny lines, you know, and it would be, that would be one that when I heard who was behind it, I was like, all right, you sold me. I'm in for that one. So hopefully that gets done.
Before I get to my number one, did you have any other honorable mentions? I'd like to mention one if you don't.
No, because I don't really want any of these movies to really be, I don't know. I hate the remake thing. I love watching remakes, but I hate thinking about, like, the Nightmare on Elm Street was so bad. God, I'm like, don't do that. And then I get afraid that people are going to want to remake the original Star Wars or the Back to the Future movies, or like, and I'm like, so like, I find like the movies I made, Black Cauldron, hardly anybody watched. Short Circuit, nobody knows what I'm talking about. Odd Thomas, literally nobody watched. So like, I picked out more movies that you know, that were like obscure movies that I like to get more credit to, you know. But overall, I don't. The movies that I love, I'll just rewatch the ones that were already made.
So my honorable mentions list is I don't even know if I want to see this be remade, but I thought it would be kind of cool. Is Bloodsport.
You see, I'm like, you're not going to get me on that one because I'm Mr. Jean-Claude Van Damme. So
no, I love Jean-Claude, and that's why I didn't add it on my list, because it's like, if they did make a remake, I remember the sequel they had, and I was like, okay, but you know, that's why I didn't add it on here, because I was like, man, I think it would be cool, but at the same time, it's like the original. I mean, it's just a classic, dude. You shouldn't mess with the classics.
And I know we're an hour and 11 minutes in, but word is Van Damme is writing an Expendables type movie where he is in a dream and the characters from his old movies like antagonize him, like, you know, and it's like his version of the Expendables with him in it, and it would have Bolo Young, and it would have like people from Double Impact, Kickboxer, you know, his movies throughout. So
that's so freaking cool, dude.
I would love that, dude. I still watch the B-rated Jean-Claude Van Damme stuff. I'm a huge fan. My best friend Muhammad is like his biggest fan on the planet. So yeah, no Bloodsport. Don't do it.
Another one though, Arachnophobia. Again, I felt like they just do CGI with the spiders, and I appreciated the real spider, and I just liked how I can't explain it. I liked how the spider was kind of like the star of the show, but they didn't like overdo it with a million spiders, like,
yeah, I'm good with that
people and stuff. You know what I mean?
I'm good with that one. Yep. Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah, I thought that might be interesting. All right, enough chit chat, Mike. Number one on my list. Again, this is another movie. If they never did a remake, I'd be totally fine. Again, this would be very character driven, like cast driven rather. But White Men Can't Jump. I feel like that they remake that with a good cast, and that'd be a fun movie to watch again.
Oh, man, I can't do it. I literally watched that like 3 days ago.
Really? I'm jealous.
I just don't think you could. I don't think
you can't recreate that magic.
No, those two, and then, bro, Rosie Perez, my God.
Yes.
It was so good, and the hook shot, like, I can't see it especially without Billy Ho. With Woody Harrelson, I can't, man. I can't do it. Maybe. Tell me the cast, because I said the same thing to Clue till I heard who was going to be it. Mm-hmm. So if you tell me the guys and I hear it and I'm like, okay, then maybe. But my first initial thought is I just watched the original.
Okay, so Billy Ho, I've been having a hard time figuring out who could play him, but I had somebody in mind. But I was thinking for Wesley Snipes' character, forgive me for not remembering his name, but I was thinking Michael B. Jordan.
He could do it. He could do. He could.
And I was thinking for Billy Ho, I don't know how you feel about this actor. I feel like you might like him. We've never talked about it, but it's is it Miles Tanner from Top Gun, from Whiplash, from
I like him. And then it just doesn't have the.
It does. I mean, those they're popular names. I think they've been in a couple of movies together. Actually, I don't know. I've never seen them do anything funny. So
yeah,
that's kind of where
Miles Teller had some funny stuff in War Dogs, but the funny was more obviously. Oh my God! No, War Dogs, a big guy in the set.
Jonah Hill.
Jonah Hill. Sorry. Okay, we ran it too long, man. We were under an hour when we started top 5. It's Monday Night Football's fault. Damn you, Tom Brady.
Tom Brady ruined it. All right, Mike, since we're over an hour, before we get you out of here, remind the people where they can find you on Twitter.
At CD Piglet, guys. Nice and easy.
Guys, I'm Paul Ryan. You can find me on Twitter at Paul_Ryan15. We appreciate you joining us, and we'll see you guys next week.
No blood sport.